I mean, I figured that wasn't your real name. I was about to call you
Thank you,
Drew earlier,
Elizabeth.
and then I was like,
Thank you, Elizabeth. HR, do you have this? HR,
Oh
do
my
you have this?
Chris, get your life together, dude.
I know.
We always like to mess with Glenn.
Hello, my friends.
Thank you for joining us for the PEBCAK Podcast, a weekly information security show featuring some all-around good people. It is week 10 of 2025. I'm Chris Louie, and went bowling for the first time in 2 years, and my back and my arm are so sore to prove it. With me, I have my co-host, Duke Silver, who once blew out the back wall of a bowling alley by throwing a ball too hard.
So, number one, you are getting old if you're complaining about being sore from bowling. And then two, we're gonna have to record this because I looked it up. I'm 1,000% sure the last time I was bowling, it wasn't the heaviest ball, but I did how they actually show you how fast you're throwing now.
Yeah,
They
miles
do
per
that?
hour. Yeah.
They
Yeah.
do?
Yeah, so I am pretty sure I get to 29 miles per hour. It's 29.1. And then I looked it up. It's 24, 25 is the highest. So I don't know if I was throwing throwing some heaters down there. But yeah, I'm not very good. I barely hit a pin. But when I did throw it, was no, I did not hit the ceiling. We'll have to go to the bowling alley and record how fast we can actually throw a bowling ball because I feel like I'm embellishing a little here.
I was in the 19
you're embellishing
range.
a lot. I didn't know they
What's
do.
it?
I didn't know they do speed going down. That's crazy.
Yeah.
What I do know is that Glenn probably had the bumpers up because he is.
I haven't. I haven't gone bowling in a long time. That tells you. I went bowling before the digital display when you had to score it by hand. So
The little pencil,
yeah.
like a golf card.
uh-huh. Do you
I had
guys
so
know how to
many
score
300
by
games.
hand? Do you guys know how to
Yes.
score by hand?
Yes.
All right.
Just adding up the numbers, Glenn.
No, it's more than just adding up the numbers because there's strikes and spares,
Yeah.
and then how the numbers add up to the right
Yeah, the
as
tens.
you're going through. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. All right.
especially the spares. The spares, Terry. The spares.
And we have Glenn Medina, who survived his 5K run this weekend and managed to show up to the podcast.
I did.
Looking good, buddy.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. I did a lot better than I thought. 13-minute miles, I guess, per se, on average. It wasn't quite as fast as the Cloud God over here. I think he's doing 8 or 9 or maybe even 7. And Chris doing... What are you at now, Chris? At 7 or 8?
As for 5K, I'm between 7 and 8. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty
I'm at
fast.
8:34, barely. I'm not. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
Some
know.
guy, some person
Oh.
ran... I think there's a group of folks that ran it in 19 minutes.
Oh,
That's
shoot.
booking.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah,
book
that's
it. So,
pretty fast.
yeah.
There's a fourth voice on the podcast. Did you guys just hear that?
Hey!
I did hear
Yeah,
that.
there you go.
Our
Hey, guys.
guest this week is Elizabeth Sharp. Elizabeth is a fellow SC here at Zscaler, but she's also a race car driver and licensed therapist, and recently posted about the similarities of the SC and therapist roles. So what has therapy taught you about B2B sales?
that mentally unstable people exist in every industry.
Oh no.
Are you talking about at work or from a customer set?
Yes.
Or both?
Yes, everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's
So
actually
is-
more similar than people think.
Yeah.
What does mentally unstable mean to you? They're gonna go postal, or they just have mommy and daddy issues, or both?
With customers, it's usually those people with very fragile egos who get very defensive and are, you have to kind of tiptoe around them to get to know them a little bit.
Don't
That's
call the baby ugly.
Yeah. Yep.
I would
see
have to
that a
imagine
lot.
too, if it's a female doing that to a dude that has got a little bit of an ego, you can see how you can crush it. Is that why you have to tiptoe?
That happens sometimes too. Yeah.
Yeah.
People kind of trying to stump the chump, let's trip her up.
I think that's an underrated soft skill on the B2B sales side, the being able to read the room. Because I've done it long enough, and I've been in some awkward situations where a person I was with did not correctly read the room and said something that was it might not normally be offensive, but in this context, it was, and I've been in some of those situations.
That might actually be my superpower. Not reading the room, just offending people. I'm so good at it. It's amazing. So I have a question. Is it, because your name's spelled differently as we looked at the show notes, is it Elizabeth? Elisabeth? Is it like a weird, or is it just Liz?
Just Elizabeth. My mom is Belgian, so it's like the more European spelling. My friends call me E. I don't really go by Liz because there's no Z in my name. So
Liz, I guess.
You don't go by
by
Lisa?
Lisa. Yeah.
I could, but
Or
how does your mom say your name?
Elizabeth, but with a Belgian accent.
Do it with the accent. Do it.
Elizabeth.
See, there you go. Now we know.
There you go.
Yeah.
I was
There
right.
you go.
It's
Yeah.
Elizabeth.
There's a little bit more of an S, I guess.
Yes, Chris. Come on, let's go. You guys can't pronounce anything in Belgian. Let's go.
It's true. We won't even try.
I didn't even know there was an accent, to be honest with you. I just know about their waffles. Pretty good.
It's French. My mom makes the most amazing waffles, though.
You don't know about the famous man from Belgium? The
Vicar?
muscles from Brussels?
No.
Jean-Claude Van Damme? Come
Oh,
on,
shoot.
man. How could-
I do remember. Yeah, was it? What was the one that he was like? It wasn't Fight Club. It was like
Bloodsport.
Bloodsport. That was the movie
Yeah.
right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Combined,
no one really fights
we
that
have
way.
decades of information security experience and here not just to educate, but to entertain. We got 4 awesome stories for this week, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. This week we have a jam-packed agenda, and we're going to talk about yet another new feature to stop grandma from getting scammed, a pair of crypto privacy stories, for our third topic, the largest crypto heist in history, and close with race car talk. For our first topic, Google is releasing a new anti-TOAD feature, and TOAD is an acronym that stands for Telephone Oriented Attack Delivery on Android 16. TOAD attacks occur when a scammer or attacker calls a victim and socially engineers them into changing settings that make the phone less secure. For example, turning on accessibility services will allow an attacker to read everything on the phone screen, such as two-factor authentication codes, and allow them to input data into the phone to take over the device. Another popular setting scammers love to enable is the ability to sideload applications outside of the Google Play Store, where Google vets out most of the malicious applications. When enabled, the anti-TOAD feature blocks users from making their phone less secure while they're on an active phone call, and will even pop up a message stating that many scammers ask to change these settings to hack the device. This will try and stop scammers from walking victims live over the phone through the steps needed to break into the device.
Oh, I thought you were going to finish your last sentence. My bad. So I was looking at some of the screenshots in the article, and I think they have a bigger problem, and it's the entire OS looks like malware to me. like, really? We're going to do anti-TOAD, Kermit the Frog type of methodology here? I don't get it. But yeah, so good luck with that, Android. And then I guess it's a step in the right direction, albeit marginally. And it must be crazy effective for them to actually say, you know what, this is a problem that we need to solve.
I mean, it is. That's how like these people get sideloaded apps onto their phone, and some of them have to do with like crypto investment scams, because there are legitimate apps like Binance will have an app or Crypto.com will have an app, but then they'll have them sideload this malicious app that looks like the real app, but then they give them fake returns and tell them to keep sending them money.
I actually had my wallet hacked, and then they sent me a message that said, "Please buy more Bitcoin. This was an incredible waste of time." Were you going to say, Glenn?
So, I was just wondering, I mean, this is a VDL issue, right? Because none of us have an Android. Unless...
Not true.
Elizabeth.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have an Android?
I got one for my work phone. I have an iPhone for my personal phone. I was like, I'll mix it up a little and I'll get an Android for my work phone. I hate it. It's awful. It's awful going back and forth between the two. I mean, if I got used to it, I'd probably like it, but...
I was going to say, how quick was that before you regretted that decision?
Oh my gosh, like instantly. It's like, why did I do this to myself?
Now you're stuck with that phone for the next 4 years.
Yeah.
So, ouch.
I know.
Do you just forward the calls to your personal device then? Leave it in the
I
door?
don't get any phone calls, so not really. And if someone needs to reach me, I'll give them my personal number.
Yeah, I think it's annoying going back between the two. Like if you're all in on Android, I think it works well. If you're all in on iPhone, it works well. But when you mix the two, it becomes annoying.
Half in, half out, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't work in anything. So says the therapist.
So this only affects Android, right? Because they can sideload. I mean, you can't sideload on an iPhone. I don't think grandma's going to Yeah, but grandma's not going to do a jailbroken phone.
Yeah, I think that's one of the understated features of this is that you have to do it, or this feature is only available on Android because Android is the only one vulnerable to this. Exactly what Glenn said. You cannot sideload applications on an iPhone. And a lot of the accessibility features, like the app segmentation inside an iPhone is tremendous. It's really privacy oriented, whereas Android, it's just like the open Wild West. Like,
yeah.
Would you say it's massive?
Because I remember, because like we have, our company has an application that they want to do something like, certificate authentication. And it's like, well, Apple won't let you because it's a third party app accessing the trusted search store. Like you can't cross that security boundary. It's secure to the point where it becomes inconvenient, but it is still secure.
I thought you could on it as long as the Apple device had an MDM.
Yes, with an MDM, yes, you could.
Yeah,
but
right.
Without an MDM, you cannot.
Okay. Be clear on that. I think VDL is just choking on himself right now because he would tell us he thinks otherwise, right? That he thinks Android is so much more secure.
The best thing since sliced bread.
Yeah. Elizabeth VDL is someone that used to work at Zscaler. Now he works for some marginally okay security company. We won't name names. Gas him up.
No free advertising. You got to pay us
right.
for that sponsorship.
Yeah.
So the thing when I look at this, I'm like, man, like it has to be like a very lonely person that you're going to target. And I think you have to have a couple superpowers here. Like number one, I guess the fact they're already on Android is a plus, right? Because you just like, oh, they have a pattern of bad decision making. Number one. Number two, I feel like you have to have like incredible patience. Like, and this like aligns very well. So I have an Airbnb, and anytime I send the instructions to someone of like how to enter the house, and they're on Android, it's always an issue. And this is like, no, you go to top of the driveway, left hand side. There's a keypad, and I feel like I'm handing like a monkey hammer. Like they're downstairs at some auxiliary door, just like pissed off and calling Airbnb and getting put up in a hotel because they can't figure out how to enter the premises. So kudos to these people doing toad attacks. I gotta imagine like it can't sideloading an app has got to be like some obfuscated URL, right? Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like it just can't be that easy. For grandma, for you guys, super easy because you're smart. But yeah.
Could you imagine being walked through that? You're like, hey, can I get you to go to settings and then go to applications? And grandma's going to go, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I could see like a teenager or something kind of falling for it. Like, especially if it's like, ooh, you'll get like crypto out of it.
Yeah, but teenagers don't have money like grandma does, though.
That's
right?
true.
So
That's
what
true.
are they going to get? Like lunch money? So...
They're PII.
Oh, says the school bully over here taking people's lunch money again.
Quit talking about Chris that way.
Yeah, the younger generation, this like their whole career is premised on, I just want to be an influencer. I'm like, do you understand like how incredibly lucky you have to be to get that?
They publish their entire life online. I mean, that's similar to like kids that want to join the NBA. Like, I'm going to be an NBA All-Star one day. And it's like, yeah, it's good to have those goals, but realistically, like 1%, less than 1% of 1% actually make it to the NBA, much less be a starting player on an NBA team.
Hey, I was in 8th grade, 6'2". Spoiler, I'm still 6'2". White kid from hillbilly Globe, Arizona, and I thought I had NBA dreams. Like I was like, it's gonna happen. I'm the next Dan McGurgle. Actually, it was Dan Marley. Yeah, it didn't. Like
Larry Bird.
Yeah, no, Larry. Like, had to go with the Phoenix, right? It was just a local team. But like now I look at it, I'm like, God, can you imagine like 6 years ago being 40 years old playing against LeBron James? Like he would have, like, much as I don't like him, he would have murdered me on the court. That's for sure.
Oh yeah.
I would have been okay to sit and warm the bench for some money.
Yeah, but then it's easy for you to get cut or traded.
Yeah. Hey, I just need a year or two of that NBA money. I think I'd be okay.
And then you don't get those
you probably
guarantees.
develop some terrible habits.
Was it 3 years? Maybe it's 3 years. I thought the league minimum was 3 or 5, and then you get retirement out of the whole thing. I thought it was that way. Maybe it's football that was that way.
You know, someone's done their homework clearly.
Yeah. Just saying.
Have you guys heard about, he was an NBA player, but he was on the bench his entire career, and he got all this shit about, like, oh, you don't know how to play. And he started posting YouTube videos of him, like, anyone who would challenge him to play basketball. He was like, I'll play you. And he would just destroy them. Do you know who I'm talking
Like
about?
one-on-one? Yeah, I think I remember that.
Like, he was still a professional basketball player.
He played for Boston, I think. His last go-around was with Boston. He played with the Warriors for a little bit, too. Can't remember his name. God.
Have you guys ever seen The Professor?
He's pretty good.
The guy from
Short.
Ant-Man.
Short.
Yeah. He's still around. Like, he talked to, like, this whole thing, like, he couldn't make it into college, and it turned out to be like a blessing, because Ant-1 picked him up, and he has, like, this wildly successful career being a street basketball player.
That's cool.
So everyone's dream is slightly different, I guess.
I remember there was this
hustle.
one. It might have been a show on ESPN. It was one of those, the talk shows that they have, and they sent this correspondent out there, and they would track like all these troll tweets. Like some guy says, "Oh, I can kick better than so and so." Like, I can't believe you missed the field goal. I could do 10 times better. They'll actually fly out and meet the guy, and it's like, "Oh, you posted this. Can you actually kick a field goal better?" And the guy kicks it and it goes like 3 yards.
Yeah, I love it.
It's like, it's easy to talk trash online.
Yeah, I think Toad. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Mine's dumb.
Yeah, I think Toad with a little bit of smishing would probably go a long way, right? So, hey, yeah, I can see you can't get there. I'm gonna send you a text message. Click on this link, and then it just takes them to the malware itself. But I don't think Toad by itself will be very effective. But it must be, because there's an article on it. So
it's just one step in the attack chain, because it's the cat and mouse thing. It's the whack-a-mole thing, because before Android used to be the Wild West, you could load anything, and then they started turning on the setting that says you can't sideload apps anymore from untrusted sources. Now they have to turn this off, and then now I'm guessing the scammers have to find some new way to evade this anti-toad feature that say, I'm going to give you instructions, hang up, change it, and then call me back. And they'll do something like that. I like the guy Glenn put me on, Pierogi, the scammer payback guy. And
he's awesome.
I think there was one segment he did because he imitates, like, he has the voice changer, so he sounds like a grandma. He's like, "Oh, what do I click? Show me where to click." And he wasted like this guy's time. I can't remember how many hours. And then he's like, "Oh," and then the fake grandma goes to buy the Google Play gift card. And then the guy's like, "Okay, send me the code. Enter it in this box here." He's like, "Enter it here." And then she enters it into her own account instead of the scammer's account. And then you can hear the scammer like freaking out, like, "No, why would you do that?
You dumb, you dumb person."
Like, I love those scammer payback calls.
Yeah.
Topic 2, maybe?
I know.
Yeah.
Like, since I brought the podcast to a screeching halt with that anecdote.
Boring joke. Yeah.
That wasn't a boring joke. It's hilarious.
There's only two of the 4 got the jokes.
I know. I'm going to find the video. I'm going to link through to it, and then the audience will tell me whether or not that was hilarious or not. For our second topic, we have a pair of crypto privacy stories. I love companies that put user privacy in their mission statements, which is why I continue to support Apple and Signal. That commitment to privacy is exactly the reason 2 European governments are mad at them. The first story comes from Apple, which is dropping the Advanced Data Protection, or ADP, option in the UK market because of UK's demand to Apple that they implement a backdoor in iCloud. For those of you who don't know what ADP does, when you back up your data to iCloud, Apple stores the encryption key, and they can decrypt your iCloud backup if they are served with a court order. ADP provides true end-to-end encryption, and not even Apple can read your iCloud backup data, even if served with a court order. The UK Investigative Power Act allows the UK to demand reasonable access to user data not only for UK citizens, but any Apple user. So that's why Apple is drawing a line in the sand and completely disabling the feature for all UK customers instead of complying with the backdoor request. You have the usual pearl clutchers screaming that they need this for the children to catch child predators.
I feel like UK is taking a page out of China's playbook. Like, oh no, we're doing this to protect the kids, but it sounds more like Big Brother to me.
No kidding. You think they'd be big on freedom of speech, but I guess they're not, or freedom of
the same ones that arrest you for the memes, right?
Yeah,
or no?
That's Germany.
I think it's the UK too.
Yeah.
I think that's heading in that direction. But yeah, they're more focused on these investigative powers than use their citizen privacy.
Elizabeth, where are you at with the group chat, the private homies? Are you guys sending offensive memes, or you just like keep it PC?
On Signal? I mean...
you said number one, all right, you're doing it there. That's a step in the right direction. So that says so much.
Usually my chats we're talking about some cheesy book that we're reading, and it's very girly, and we talk about Pilates. So
how does Chris feel about Pilates and those cheesy girly romance books then? Because I'm sure he's in that thread with you, right?
I'd say I don't know enough about either of the topic to speak on it.
I was watching this like little YouTube short of this. I would call him like more or less an alpha male, and he's in his bedroom. He's walking by. He's like, my wife's a big old nerd. She's always reading Harry Potter, blah blah blah. And then he's like, this one book's kind of sticking out. So he opens it up and he starts like reading. He's like, oh my god, like it's so explicit.
Explicit.
And so, yes, it was like I was like, whoa, I didn't know people talk like that, right? And so he's like just thrown back by it. And so he calls his wife over. And he's like, hey, read this book to me. And she won't even get on camera. She's so embarrassed. I can feel the redness of her face, even though I can't see her on that, on the camera. And she's like, I am not reading that at all. And so like for the next like 4 or 5 posts, it's just him saying, hey, are you the weirdo? Not saying that you're reading those kind of books, but when you brought up books, I was like, oh my gosh.
I usually don't. I usually don't, but I'm reading A Court of Thorns and Roses, which I was kind of misled into reading because someone said it was akin to Game of Thrones and that it was very sophisticated. It is not very sophisticated. It is entertaining though, but it gets really steamy.
Yeah. Who was it? I was walking with my wife and her best friend, and this is right before COVID, and they were talking about 50 Shades of Grey, and I'm walking ahead of them with the dog. And I'm just listening to the conversation going, what kind of book is this? Like, holy cow. Like, what are you doing? So
it's one of those things, right? Like I guess whatever you want to call the dude in 50 Shades of Grey. Like you see the movie I think there's a movie of it. And like, it's okay because he's like a handsome, rich, like billionaire, right? But it's like the same thing with like a Luke Bryan song. It's like, Country Girl, Come Shake It With Me. I'm like, if this was like the neighborhood homeless guy asking you to shake it for him, like you'd be like so grossed out. But since he's got that magic voice, you just seem to roll with it. And so let me get this straight. In between racing cars, being a therapist, you're also in a book club?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love to read.
Where do you find the time?
Yeah, and a day job, and a mom.
And a day job, and a mom. Yeah.
Yeah. Reading is like my number one escape. Like when people talk about self-care, for me, it's not like a bath with, fancy lotions and stuff like that. It's like, I just want to sit and read for a little while and escape reality.
How many books can you read in a week?
I mean, like 2, like maybe if I'm like really gunning at it, but usually I'm reading at the end of the night and I fall asleep like 20 minutes into what I'm reading.
That's more books than I've read all year. That's amazing.
So what are those books behind you? Are those tech books or are those your novels that you're talking about?
Good question. It's a little bit of both. I have some of my textbooks from when I was a counselor, actually, like helping skills and group counseling. And then I have some tech books. I have Counter Hack Reloaded is on there. Breaking and Entering. And then I just have a whole bunch of fiction books too, and just fun stuff.
Nice.
I have some comics and stuff down at the bottom.
Is that your drawing of the ladybug?
Oh no, that's my son's. Except he didn't.
Oh, okay.
I mean, he didn't really draw it. Like daycare basically did it and had him sign it.
Okay.
Is
But I still like
is that a Zelda Triforce you're using as a bookend?
Yes. Yeah.
We're just
big
learning
Zelda
so
fan.
much about our guests today, guys.
I know, right? You can tell a lot about a person from their background. Yeah, Glenn's got some kind of Maori weapon in the background, it looks like.
I've got a couple more over here on this side. So I should
see.
put them on that. Yeah.
So he has some kind of do not disturb sign on the back of his door. I think he puts that out when he wants privacy from his wife in his computer room.
I took that from the Marriott. Yep, because I didn't want to have to create one. So thank you, Marriott.
I see a bunch of awards.
Yeah, what the wardrobe is in your back, Glenn.
This? Oh, it's got books and I think a printer, a radio. It's got a bunch of things inside there I haven't taken out yet. Well, I've organized it. It used to be stuffed with stuff. Now it's actually a lot more organized. I'm going to open up one day. I'm going to put speakers up here and so that way. Yeah, try to get my office in order. At least it's nice enough now that I can have a real background instead of the virtual background like Deech here.
Yeah,
So
I
what I
imagine
really love is the reflection of CNN in your back.
I know. I know he's watching TV. You can tell he's watching
It's
TV.
the news because 9 times out of 10 I'm missing something. So it's yeah. I got to figure out a way to get that to not to reflect. So
yeah, turn it.
Spray paint it.
yeah.
Take down the whiteboard.
Yeah, take down. Yeah, that's another thing I got to do. I've decided to just get rid of the whiteboards, get rid of the pin board, the what do you call that? The push pin boards, and trying to go all blank here.
Wow, what's next? Checkbooks? You old fart.
His conspiracy wall with the little red strings. He's like, I've given up on it. He either got the guy or he's given up on it, so he can finally take down the pin board.
I wouldn't mind having one of those just one time. Just
pin board.
Well, no, with all like pictures of just random things and like red
Newspaper
strings, like
clippings.
kinda, yeah. It'll be about Bigfoot somehow.
You can make it about how you can make it about all the data centers that are connected together and the load balancing and whatnot. That's your push pin board.
All right, Glenn went there. All right. Well, the
like
second story,
of them, maybe.
the second crypto-related story is one we've had as long as encryption has been around. The government of Sweden is demanding Signal to keep a copy of every single message sent on its platform, something it has no technical capability of doing, since Signal is an end-to-end encrypted messaging app. Signal CEO Meredith Whitaker has stated she will exit the market in Sweden before she allows a backdoor to encryption to be installed on their platform. Sweden justifies their request for this backdoor because crime has been steadily increasing in Sweden over the last 10 years, and they believe reading everyone's Signal messages will help them fight crime. You know, if only they can think of something else that has happened in Sweden over the last 10 years that may be contributing to the rising crime rate. Law enforcement should use the investigative tools they already have at their disposal, like old-school gumshoe detective work, before attempting to circumvent the most secure messaging app available.
Is Sweden the one that does the banking that you can go hide your money at, or is that?
I think it's Switzerland.
Switzerland, yeah.
Same thing, Glenn.
Sweden, Switzerland, they're all the same.
European
They're somewhere
country
out
starts
there.
with S.
The European country, yeah.
Well, James Tucker said something about that the other day. He's like, "No, I live in Sweden, not Switzerland." I was like, "I didn't know those are different," but I'm glad that you brought that up.
You two are not helping the stereotype that Americans are bad at geography.
I'm horrible.
Actually I'm pretty good at geography, so I just didn't know which one was the banking one. I should have looked it up before I said something.
That is Switzerland. That's why I always hear like Swiss bank account.
Yeah. So
you know what they say.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, if you're not paying for it, you're the product, and we're not paying for it. So are we the product of Signal?
Well, Signal is a non-profit. I pay for Signal because I support them. They are a non-profit, so I give them my $10.
What do you mean you pay? You don't have. Oh, you give them money.
Donate. Yeah.
Donate. Yeah. You're donating money. Yeah.
Yeah. it's not like Telegram, where Telegram you have to pay for certain features. Signal at least is open. Like if you're a free user or a paid user, you get the exact same thing. But I think the paid user, I get a little icon in my profile picture that says I'm a contributor, and that's it. But you pay because you like what they're doing, their mission.
Yeah, I find it odd that these countries are trying to go after these, these tech companies based off of this, and it's like you would think you'd start someplace easier, like crime in your country or theft, so, more so than just trying to figure out what people are doing on a messaging platform, right? I mean, because you could go blame Sony PlayStation Networks, you can go do other things where all that crime is happening as well.
Yeah, you could blame Gmail, like just people do crime through email.
Yeah. You can blame Toyota for having a great truck that runs in
any environment.
In any environment, right? So put a turret on the back and flip it over, and so
catch on fire, you can run it through a river, and it just runs just fine.
Yeah.
So do you feel like the Swedes are forcing them out, or they're just going to go out? Like I feel like it might set like a precedence. You know what I mean? Like I would think, oh no, they're going to get rid of it in America. But then I was like, no, every congressperson is using Signal to hide all their shady stuff anyways. They don't want to have a Jimmy Buffett situation, if you catch my drift. I don't think you guys know what I mean by that.
I know what you mean. You use this analogy like 18 times in the podcast.
Okay. Well,
he has? Yeah.
He has.
So
yeah.
Glenn hasn't. Yeah.
He hasn't been paying attention.
Whatever, guys. I'm out of here.
All right, Brian. Why
18 times that I wasn't on the
well, and you explain it to Glenn and Elizabeth.
I don't want to anymore. How about that? I'm just kidding. No, I'll just send it in Slack later or Signal. Yeah, find it on Patreon, everyone.
I think Sweden will blink. I think their demand, I feel, is short-sighted. Like it's nice to saber rattle and say we're fighting crime by taking on big tech, and big tech is enabling crime. Like they talk a big game, but I think the backlash of its citizens if Signal exits the market will be too great, and it's too much of a political cost for too little payoff.
Well, I mean, what are they going to do? Ban the next one, like WhatsApp? WhatsApp, you're going to run into the same issues, right?
Yep.
So,
WhatsApp,
other than
Signal,
iMessage, yeah.
Telegram, iMessage, yeah. Everything is end-to-end
TikTok.
encrypted. TikTok is not end-to-end encrypted.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Is it iMessage end-to-end encrypted? No,
yes,
not yet.
iMessage is. Facebook, I think starting last year, I think was by default, because Facebook Messenger always offered E2E, but then it was disabled by default. I think they started turning it on by default, and the same pearl clutchers are like, well, you got to protect the children, like turn this stuff off.
So I feel like E is going to come out of left field with this. So my question to you is, as a therapist, you were like bound by client confidentiality. Is that, or is that just a lawyer thing? I don't know. Right?
Yeah, no.
Same.
Or, yeah, something like that.
Doctor,
okay.
patient privilege.
So maybe thank you. That's the thing I was thinking about. So outside of them hurting themselves or somebody else, like where do you stand on this? Because that's kind of like what the Swedes are trying to say. It's like, oh, they're going to do bad things, and so we need to know about it. What do you think?
I mean, historically, governments tend to sort of abuse surveillance, and traditionally that hasn't gone super well for normal people. So I think it's a little bit of an overreach. And then you kind of have to ask the question about like what constitutes a crime, like what justifies pulling up that kind of data, who makes those rules, and what's like a valid excuse to dig into it. Like the lines can just get really blurry.
Would insider trading count?
I guess so. Sure.
It's like, I think it's it's a who watches the Watchmen situation.
Are you asking in terms of therapy? Like, if somebody disclosed that they were doing insider trading in my therapy session, would I have to break confidentiality?
Yeah. Would you?
No.
Okay.
I thought there were some things though that you had to report, right?
There's certain thresholds, that have to be met.
Yeah. Basically, if they're gonna hurt themselves or somebody else, or like if they're at risk of serious harm.
What if someone said that they were a child pornographer? And they were like, "Hey, I've got a really bad disease," and is that
I'd have to report that. Yeah,
you have to report that, right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank God. Thank God. What about if Chris was like, hey, I need to talk. Can you guys sit down, sign the paper? He's paid you. Copay, I have no idea. And he's like, I have the recipe to KFC. What would you do with that information? And I want to share it with you right now.
I would take that for my own use. And I'd maintain the secret because it's important, but now I have it too. So
You can eat that delicious chicken.
Good
now.
answer.
yeah,
KFC. You really like KFC? You don't like KFC.
I like KFC.
Well, no. Yeah, I mean, if you're looking to satisfy that grease craving, yeah, like let's go. If you need a bucket of regret, they got it. They sell it literally by the buckets.
By the bucket. I love that South Park episode with the KFC. You should
I
go
don't
watch it
think
if you
I've
haven't
seen
seen it. Yeah, going back to the topic, one of the justifications for not just Sweden, but for the UK and other countries, they say like, well, we need this. There's the so-called ticking time bomb scenario where there's a imminent terrorist attack or to solve murders or to solve, a mass casualty event or prevent one. And I think that's sort of a red herring, a misdirection, because yes, I definitely want to stop terrorist attacks. Yes, I definitely want to stop a mass casualty event, but it's also, you start there and say, once the backdoor has been created and say, we're only going to use this for really serious crime. And then some other government, call it, the Congo or one of these other countries, to say, well, a really serious crime is somebody is threatening to throw me out of power. Like, is that a serious crime? So once the backdoor is built, like the horse is out of the barn. Like there's no going back from that. And you can't control how it's used.
Yeah, it's called the Patriot Act.
Familiar with the horses out of the barn analogy.
You know that one?
Is that a real one?
Yeah, you can't put the genie back in the bottle.
I mean, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube, but I'm pretty sure you can put the horse back in the barn.
Well, not if it's already escaped and gone.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You act like it has infinite running powers. You don't have a truck and a cowboy to go get it.
All right. Next week on episode 199, we're going to do a deep dive into American idioms.
You heard it here first.
First and foremost, the biggest idiot is teach. Idioms. My bad. All right.
Yeah, I agree. It's at what point, and I think we've talked about this before. It's like who's in charge and who deems that the talk track is legal, right, or illegal. I think that becomes the issue, and I think that's where we're kind of facing right now, even in the U.S. of civil rights, not rights, but freedom of speech rights, right? So.
Yes, and like we said, in some countries, China, Germany, UK, posting an offensive meme is a crime now. In the US, you could still say F the president and still get away with it. It's just everyone has a different opinion.
We don't need that on here right now.
That's like the movie. Go ahead.
And so, do you ever remember like hearing about that? Like Big Brother's always watching, and so you're I don't know, it's summertime, you're watching WWE, and so you're calling up your friend. You're like in third grade, and you're just like saying all these wildly inappropriate things about the president, and then just wondering if someone's going to come knocking on your door.
Yeah, knock on
the door. Did you ever do that?
No.
Some little 3-letter agency shows up. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I never ended up on any watch lists.
Did you ever figure out like *69? You're like, I wonder what *68 is. And you just sit there, start pounding random numbers in your phone to see if it did anything.
No.
All right.
No, there was a charge for that. It's like a nickel or 25 cents.
I was never that.
I dare not do that with my mom and dad's bill. I'd get a whooping.
Glenn, what is this?
Yeah.
I think it was Domino's used to promise like pizza to your door within 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And I remember making a long distance phone call from Globe into Phoenix, seeing if they would deliver me a pizza. Like it was 90 minutes away. And then they're just like, no. And I got in trouble for making a long distance phone call.
That's funny. I remember the college people would do that, and they would always try to mess with the drivers. They'd set up roadblocks. They would like turn off the elevator. They'd like set up couches in the hallway just so that they could, not make that guarantee and get a free pizza.
Dude, my old high school football coach, his name is Pete Jonovich. Oh my, like number one, I see him at the gym sometimes. I'm like, how do you look so freaking young? He looks younger than me. Even my damn high school coach, phenomenal shape. Anyways, but he would always tell these stories like when he was playing college football that they would deliver pizza to a different dorm room, and then as the pizza's getting delivered, they just go beat the crap out of the dude to take the pizza, to the point where the guy's just like, listen, just take the pizza, you don't have to hurt me anymore. So it's like him and his Simone friend just go over there and mug him all the time.
That's a literal
Pete, you're
crime.
exposed, brother. It was a literal, yeah. He thought it was so funny. I was like,
I wouldn't be proud of that. That's robbery.
It was to the point where the guy was just like, just take the pizza, right? Like, I'm not. Would you fight for a $12 pizza?
No. Yeah.
Where do you draw the line, though? At what point were you like
fighting? With fighting?
You're not taking my Geo Metro. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Foreshadowing is what we call that, everyone.
Yeah, health, safety, family. That's what
I think it all depends on he who has the bigger stick wins, right? So
Glenn carries a big stick around.
Yeah,
he hopes to never have to use it, but he knows he's got it.
That's what everybody hopes for. Unlike some people that have like a bulletproof Cybertruck, so
just looking for
that
trouble.
they've never been shot at before, but needed to get a bulletproof car.
Hey,
so.
Just never know. Never know.
Yeah. So.
All right, coming up on time. We're gonna skip topic number 3 here and jump right into the meat and potatoes of our discussion for our last topic, and it'll be a rotating topic every week. We're going to talk about racing a Geo Metro, so as Brian said earlier, foreshadowing that. When Brian mentioned Elizabeth has an Instagram page dedicated to racing Geo Metro that she built, I knew I had to know more. Now, I've only known one person ever that's owned a Geo Metro, and he affectionately called it a tin can. The only thing I know about Metros is that they had a 3-cylinder motor, and the only production car that I'm aware of that had that. So, Elizabeth, can you tell us about the motivation for fixing up arguably the worst car in America?
In America.
Yeah, I was going to say, Ladas don't count because we never got them here.
Yeah. And there actually are a couple like cool 3-cylinder cars that are out there, like the Corolla GR is 3-cylinder and still makes like 300 horsepower. It's a pretty cool car. But yeah, so to be fair, the Geo Metro is my husband's car, and I just sort of tolerate it. My own cars are much cooler than that one. He had that car when we first met, and I was just like, I don't get it. Like, it's absolutely terrifying looking. He put like googly eyes on it. It has faded paint. It's covered in dings. Like, this car has like been through some. It makes all of 50 horsepower. And it has absolutely no features. So, like, no power windows, no air conditioning, no ABS. Yeah, like nothing. No power steering. Yeah. And then the chassis.
It's ready. Can't never ever be stolen by some youngster.
Seriously though. Yeah, and it is
anti-theft device.
Yeah, 5-speed manual with a very finicky clutch. So, good luck to those people, even if they do know how to drive stick, driving that. And then the chassis is basically like a tin can, like you said. Like, if someone hit me while I was driving it on a highway, then I would be like super dead. It would just squish. So
I was in. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the appeal of the Geo that I have come to appreciate over time is that we could take it to an event and park it next to a Ferrari, park it next to a $300,000 Porsche. And people will still gather around the Geo and be like, oh, I had one of those in college. Yeah. Or like, oh, that was my first car. Like, people get so excited about it. And it's so like weird to them that they're like, what is this thing doing here? That it kind of brings people together in like a fun way.
It's iconic in a fun way.
Yeah. I
was in a judge, and you say that your husband was the dollar store Dale Earnhardt, but apparently he had like the long con going on over here. He knew about a cool Geo Metro. Some interesting young lady might think that is a cool vehicle, and boom, look at you guys now, married with a kid.
Actually, the story of how we met is actually more interesting than that. It was not around the Geo.
Was it in therapy? Just kidding. Go on.
It was at a racing event, and he was sitting in the staging lanes, and he has an Evo 8, so he was driving that day. Yeah. And I overheard him talking to his friend about like, oh, you need an instructor in this region. And I was instructing. And so I was like, hey, I'm an instructor. Do you want me to hop in the car with you? And he was like, Yes, like he just
He
looked
was
like
does not compute. Don't know.
yeah,
what to
he
do.
was like, I don't know what just happened, but yeah, sure, hop in the car with me. So we go out on the run, and like 10 seconds into the run, I'm like, he's completely on his line. Like he's threshold braking. He's doing like advanced like skills while he's out there. Like this guy has clearly done this before. We get done, and I was like, have you been autocrossing before? Like, have you been racing? He's like, yeah, I've been doing it for like 18 years. I just wanted to talk to you.
Oh,
smooth criminal.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's set up.
Yeah, well played.
Nice.
So your husband's name is
The
not
rest is
Ricky
history.
Sloby. Okay.
Ricky Bobby.
Did he say, I want to go fast?
We're trying to teach our kid that phrase.
You ain't
So,
first. You're last.
That racing car, has it ever broken any land speed records, like maybe in a school zone?
So, fun fact, there is currently an uncontested land speed record for cars with like under 9,987 cc's. So, and naturally aspirated cars. So basically, like for very, very slow cars, the land speed record is wide open. And we've talked about, hey, do you want to go to Maine and set that record and just have it? I think we're going to try to do it this summer.
Why is that in Maine and not like at the Salt Flats in
The
Utah?
car wouldn't make it there. Yeah.
Well, you trailer it
Trailer
in.
it.
Come on. Yeah, you can. Yeah. Interesting that it's in Maine.
So,
Yeah.
So-
as we are running out of time, what are your race cars then, since the Geo is not technically yours? I mean, you guys are married, so, but.
I know. So I have a 2008 Civic Si that I campaign a lot. I have my picture here. I don't know if anyone can see it, but
Nice.
Nice.
I love that car. It's my favorite car. It's 200,000 miles on it. And it's really good for autocrossing. And then I also have a first generation DSM. If anyone knows like the first generation Mitsubishi Eclipse, that's what I have.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's very cool. It's really fun. It's all-wheel drive, turbo.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it's like what happened to Mitsubishi? They used to make
I
the
know.
3000 GT, the Eclipse. They had the Spider. Yeah, and then
they,
now
like,
all they make is SUVs.
They released the Eclipse crossover, which is just a slap in the face to any Eclipse fans.
Right.
Like,
then they had the Evo and the WRC days, but yeah, now they're just like a shell of a company.
I know, it's so sad.
So is that
From
the
Greece.
K20 or the K24 motor inside that Civic?
It's a K20.
K20.
Yeah.
So you
Is that
ever
the
have
hatch?
No, it's the
They had
It's
a
a
hatchback
coupe,
only
like-
here, I remember. Okay, so that was the
Oh, that's yeah.
that's the eighth
Those
gen
are the
then, I think.
yeah. So the generation I think before that, the EP3 that's sort of the redheaded stepchild of the
That was the
Civic world.
The hatchback only, it had the shifter in the dash. I remember that.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
awful.
Yeah, I had a
Brian
89
looks so
Honda
lost.
Civic. Yeah, I had an 89 Honda Civic with a double overhead cam, but didn't have the VVTech engine inside of it. So it I think it did like 90 horsepower. So without power steering, no power anything, no AC, and I drove it through the desert.
Oof.
Trying to get to my first duty station. It was hot. It was hot.
And 100 miles to the gallon, right?
I got it, like I said, in 1989. Well, actually, in 1989, I was getting like 45 miles to the gallon in that thing. So in a
Very
normally
efficient.
natural aspirated car, very efficient. That's even like I said, pre-hybrid. It's so crazy that people were getting that kind of gas mileage back then. So
My favorite part was when you said 1989, and Elizabeth was like, I wasn't born yet, so what are you talking about?
I was
Hush
born in
your mouth.
'87.
ouch.
That's smart.
All right, never mind.
Yeah.
Weak OPSEC
Yeah.
or really good OPSEC. We'll never know.
Yeah.
I will say that my favorite part of learning about you right now is that the picture that's most nearest and dearest to you is not your wife or your husband or your kid. It is the 08 Honda Civic.
Yeah, the Civic SI.
I have like an entire like wall over here of just trophies and pictures and stuff. Like, yeah, I love that car. I also have on my desk a little custom-made Hot Wheels that looks just like my car that my husband gave me for Christmas one year. It's like
sweet.
Cool.
my favorite gift I've ever gotten.
Yeah, I have one within range. Mine's easy. My wife got this for me.
Your Cybertruck.
Yeah, it looks exactly like it.
Yeah.
Do you really own a Cybertruck?
I do.
Yes. Yeah.
I haven't met an owner, but I've seen them, but I've never met somebody who actually owns one.
I'll say it's very polarizing. I love it, but it's a very polarizing vehicle.
He bought it because it was bulletproof. Did you hear that? That was like
I did catch that.
That's why he bought that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he gets shot at a lot in San Jose or in San Francisco. So
Chris is low-key, like, insane. Like, we did, like, a guy's trip, and he was downstairs, and he barricaded the door that goes outside with another bed. Like, he thought somebody was going to kick the door in. Like,
Just
that's the
never
bear.
know.
He's special.
The bear was going to come in. Yeah.
Yeah. Or Bigfoot. Bigfoot was to come in there and molest him.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, we work in cybersecurity. We're naturally a little paranoid.
It's TNO, right? Trust no one.
No. I mean, this is like Chris paranoid.
I will say, like, my wife and I were talking the other day that, kids these days, because even like the most basic car, the basic Corolla, basic Civic, like they all have power windows, power steering, power door locks, keyless entry. Like they'll never know the struggle of putting the key in the door, turning it getting stuck. You have to jiggle it a little, or you got to whack the ignition just to make sure it turns on. They'll never know that struggle.
Yeah, good luck blowing on a online game to make the cartridge work. It doesn't work.
Right. This is our version of we had to hike uphill 5 miles in the snow to get to school both ways. All right, well, we continue to get great comments about our dad joke of the week.
Dad joke of the week.
This week, our guest Elizabeth is up.
Woohoo!
Okay, here's my joke. How did the hacker get away?
How's that?
He ran somewhere.
All right.
Wow.
That's the intended response, by the way.
Good
Disappointment.
job.
That's the mark of a good dad joke.
That's it. That's it. Well, now it's a mom joke. So.
Mom joke.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, dad joke is not a gendered term. It's a classification, I would say.
I agree with that.
All
Although,
right,
my husband seems to be really, really good at them.
yeah, exactly. He as he should be as a dad. It's your duty as a dad to be good at dad jokes. All right, to wrap things up, Android stops users from disabling security features while on a call. The UK and Sweden want to weaken encryption. And Geo Metros rule. That's all we have for this week. We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. You can find us on LinkedIn. Links will be in the description. Follow us on Instagram at PEBCAK Podcast. Thank you to our listeners and subscribers who raised 5 stars in the iTunes Store and Spotify and left us a review. We appreciate you all spreading the word to help grow the show. The best way to find us is to search for the PEBCAK Podcast in your favorite podcast listening app. For our host Brian Deach, Glenn Medina, and our guest Elizabeth Sharp, I'm Chris Louie. Thanks for listening. We'll see y'all next weekend. As always, have a nice day.
Bye, Felicia.
Have a nice day.